Hey, everybody. This is Victoria English, top coach with Project 90. Thanks for joining me today. We've got a really great interview coming up with Ken Middleton. He is the director of ANIF, Alcohol is Not Your Friend. That title, that acronym grabbed me from the first time I saw it. He's an incredible writer and educator about our relationship with alcohol, when it's time to take a look at it, and overcoming any barriers to change. So I look forward to you hearing that interview. Before we start, I wanted to remind you to get your hands on the Alcohol Freedom Formula at alcoholfreelifestyle.com/guide. If you're a high achiever and you've listened to more than one of my podcasts or James, it is time to book that call with me. A 15-minute free call, just me and you having a chat. I'm going to ask questions, listen, make some suggestions as to how and if we may be able to help you. You can do that by going to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/schedule. Don't forget, we have a new YouTube channel. Go to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/YT. We'd appreciate it if you will like, comment, and share. All right, let's get started. Time to have that amazing chat with the one and only Ken Middleton. Okay, Ken, thanks for being here. We're going to jump right in. I'm being joined by Ken Middleton. He is an alcohol-conscious writer committed to helping individuals realize their true and full potential. He's a top medium writer in health, life, and addiction. I came across Ken in 2020. I was intrigued by his writing style. He's got incredible taglines. He's a very talented and engaging writer. And we connected, I don't know, about a year or so ago, and we just kind of been vibing, and we have the same mission in helping raise awareness about alcohol, examining and changing your relationship with alcohol. So thanks for being here, Ken.
No problem. Thank you, Victoria. I appreciate it greatly. Yeah, I love what you do with your program. And I appreciate being able to share my story and help anyone in any capacity.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's nice to come across like-minded individuals. I'd like to hear a little about your story, Ken. You know, when I was developing an issue with my drinking, it was in the early 2000s, and back then there was no social media. There weren't articles like you're writing. It was black and white. Am I an alcoholic? And I feel like that can be limiting because it's almost like you have to check a certain number of boxes before you're given almost permission to look at this alcohol issue. Tell me a bit about your background and what led you to do what you do now.
Yeah, I mean, what you said is 100% in line with why I created ANIF and why I felt like this is something that really needs to be addressed by society. So for me, my drinking, I never thought it was a problem. For me, I felt like I'm in sales or was in sales for a long time. And anyone who knows in sales, happy hours, schmoozing your clients, that's just what you do. So the volume that I was drinking, to me, felt very normal. And I didn't feel like I had a problem with it. I had a lot of different episodes that probably should have taught me otherwise. But the contrary was I was successful at my job. I had no issue doing my job from a sales perspective. You could argue that because I was such a good drinker and liked to drink, my clients liked me better. I made good money. Didn't have major relationships personally. So my life, I felt like was fine. The reason I looked at drinking is honestly because I left my sales position with a company, very stable company, and I started my own business to try to do it for myself. And I did it for about a year and a half, and I was not seeing the success that I thought I should. And we had talked about this before we actually got started. It's like, you know, if you're looking at drinking, then maybe you have a problem, and that's a reason that, you know, that's an indicator that there is an issue there. I never thought I had a problem, but I did recognize that alcohol it was holding me back in some respect, right? From the naturalization of when you wake up with a hangover, you don't get on the ball and start working at 7 a.m. You might not get anything done till noon or 1 o'clock. Those 4 or 5 hours make a really big difference. And then even when you are working, you're not 100% at who you are at your best, right? And so for me, wanting to succeed at this business, I said, if I failed and went back to my corporate job, I wanted to say unequivocally, I gave it 100%. And I knew that if I didn't give up alcohol or at least stop drinking for a little while, I couldn't unequivocally say that. So when I made the decision, Victoria, to give up alcohol, it was in no way saying I was going to do it forever. It was just saying, let's see how it works and see if I can be more successful. And when I did it and started to experience all the heightened sensitivity of my mental clarity, fitness was so much better. My sleep was so much better. I started seeing so many positive things. I started to realize that the alcohol, where I thought it was aiding me in a lot of ways of making me relax better, make me not be as anxious in certain situations, or just making my life fuller, was actually holding me back. And that's why when I started recognizing that, I recognized that there are a lot of other people that don't recognize that their life is not better with alcohol. And here's the bigger point. The trajectory in which they're on, if they're not careful, will lead them to have a problem with alcohol. I was fortunate because I made the decision based on wanting to be successful as an entrepreneur that made me get off of it. If someone else doesn't have some kind of impetus to make them stop drinking, they will continue and will eventually have a problem. And that is why I created ANA and I use the term, Victoria, alcohol conscious. It's not about being an alcoholic. It's not about having a problem, but just like people are health conscious, because when you're health conscious, you don't eat fried foods, you don't eat fat foods, you don't do things that you shouldn't do for your body. Being alcohol conscious is just another variation of that, of not putting a substance in your body that isn't helping you in the long run and isn't going to make you healthy in the long run.
Brilliant. I wish, I like what you said about if you're not going to take a look at it now, you could be setting yourself up for future problems where perhaps that checklist you Google online, you are checking more of those boxes. I wish I'd had this awareness back in my 30s when I was developing maladaptive habits. By the time I got to becoming alcohol free, I had slid down that slide and was doing things like we talked about, denying how much I was drinking, pretending I wasn't drinking, promising people and myself I was going to take time off, and going back and breaking those promises. And the science indicates that that's just the natural progression of alcohol. People come into our program and they can be very ashamed and embarrassed, especially if you're a high achiever and you're accustomed to getting things done. And they'll say, I don't know how this happened. And I'll say, look, it's not you, it's the booze. It's just alcohol doing its job. It is a highly addictive substance intended to create this havoc in your body, your mind, and your spirit. So I find it very enlightened that you had that you took that approach so early on. Did you encounter any sort of, how do I say this? So when you said with fitness and things like that, you look at your diet, you look at your sleep habits, etc. How were you able to be so neutral as you approached your relationship with alcohol? Because I'll liken it to things like that. I'll say if lactose gives you a stomach ache, you don't eat cheese, right? You take a break and no one judges you. What's the difference with alcohol? Why do you think it is so stigmatized and gets so blown up when people are just simply looking to improve their lifestyle?
And let me make sure I'm answering your question. You're saying, why was I able to look at alcohol and then say I didn't want it anymore, as opposed to feeling like that I was thinking society was going to look at me differently? I want to make sure I'm answering your question.
Yes.
Is that kind of okay?
Sorry, I got a little overzealous.
Yeah, no. When you say neutral, I just want to make sure I'm answering it correctly. So for me, it was alcohol. It was just an understanding that drinking was the one thing that I wasn't able to do. I think for me, it was that I was so disciplined in other areas of my life. Like I've always been so fitness oriented. Even when I used to drink, Victoria, I would go out and party until 10, 11 o'clock at night. I still woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning and went for a run because I was very disciplined in all these other areas of my life. So for me, it was the realization of, if I'm doing well in all of these other areas of my life, why am I allowing this one thing to hold me back? Whereas a lot of other people, if they're not eating healthy, if they're not working out all the time, then they're probably not even thinking about alcohol as being a bad thing. It's just more of what they're doing. So for me, it was always like this little thing in my mind that I'm like, Ken, you do these other 7 or 8 things well. Why are you allowing this one thing to hold you back? And if you really think about it, it's detracting from all of the positive things that you're doing,
Yes.
right? So it's a double whammy for you. And if you quit, if you kind of have the strength to quit, not only are you not having that thing deter, you're going to, if you will, heighten the effectiveness of all the positive things you're doing. So it was probably, the fact that I had lived a pretty healthy lifestyle before, that was the biggest, like, man, this is the thing that you really got to let go of because it's not serving you in any capacity. Let me ask you a question, because what you said, something, it sparked something I think is so important. Do you remember, Victoria, how many years you were drinking when it went from being something that you felt like you could stop doing and you were in control versus when you're like, okay, I'm telling people I'm not drinking and I am drinking. I'm hiding bottles. I'm doing stuff that I never thought I would do. Do you remember how long it was that occurred? How long had you been drinking at that time?
Yeah, so I started using alcohol, self-medicating with alcohol after my mom died. And that was around year 2000. It was very gradual. I was a runner and was having anxiety attacks. I didn't know what they were. This was the year 2000. Mental health awareness, things like that, nobody knew. So alcohol helped me catch my breath. So it was a very slow process, but I do have alcohol misuse in my family history. So I got to a point about a year later, I said, those 2 glasses, that's not doing the trick. I'm moving up to 3. I'm going to stop. And I did. And it was about maybe a year or 2 later when it came back. And it came back faster that time. So I think it was probably about 8 years from start until I said, whoa, I'm trying all the tricks. I'll only drink on Friday. I'll buy smaller glasses. I'll only buy 1 bottle of wine at a time, things like that. It's about 8 years.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. And that was what I was just interested, because you did hit on something that's so important. A lot of people, when they start having issues with drinking, they have a dramatic life event that causes them to use alcohol as a sense of medication. Like that does happen. But when we talk about the higher achievers and why this happens to a lot of people, is that there is a time frame that's between about 16 and 23 years of drinking, right? That's the time frame. From your 16th to your 23rd year, typically is when it goes from, hey, this is something that I like to do, which is something that I might have a problem to do. And you think about when most people start drinking, it's probably in college between the years of 18 to 22. That is why if you look at a lot of people that they're used to drinking normally and they're not feeling they have any issues, and what happens usually in the 40s, right? There's a couple of things. If you think about life events that happen, one, a parent dies. For a lot of us, right? That is the time frame that a potential parent dies. Second, unfortunately, a lot of people get divorces around that time. Third, maybe something with your child. Your child is old enough at that age that something could happen that can give you stress. So if you look at the combination of the time period that you're drinking, and then second, the time in which dramatic things could happen, that 38 to about 45-year age range is where you will see a lot of people, business professionals, who go from they got everything under control to, okay, I might have a problem. And that is the people we typically are trying to talk to with ANF to get to like start thinking that way before it's too late.
I like that. Yes. And like I said, if I'd had that awareness, my idea of a problem, of course, we didn't use problem drinkers. We just used alcoholic. My idea of an alcoholic was what I had seen as I was growing up. My father got sober 40 plus years ago through AA. But the only idea I had about that was that it looked a certain way. And so when I went through college and things like that and drank and went to parties and stuff and never had an issue, I thought I can check that box. I'm fine. And I barely drank in my 20s. I was busy being married and having babies and all that stuff. And so again, it's about awareness, because what you said, when life starts to build up just the normal events of life. Alcohol can sneak in, especially, and I know you write about this often, with the impact of society and the conditioning. I know we're both shaking our head. For our listeners who aren't watching this video, we're just shaking our head. We are shaking our head.
Yeah. I would just say this, Victoria, because when you hit the nail on the head about society, and that is the other aspect of ANF, because we have one of our 4 sectors of ANF is society versus sobriety. And what I mean by that is that you will be amazed how you are indoctrinated as a young child to believe alcohol is not just, alcohol isn't like something that you do as maybe or a plus of your day-to-day life. It's an expectation of what you do. Think about growing up,
right?
Birthday parties, all alcohol, right? When you go to college, if you don't drink in college, like what are you doing? If you, and this is the thing that really, people don't understand, happy hours at work, professional, things like that.
Yeah.
But here's the thing that really burns me up. If you watch television and you watch movies and you watch shows, they make it seem like people drink alcohol all the time, every day, all day. And what I say to people, it's not realistic. How many families, and I may be wrong, right? My wife and I don't do this, but I don't think we did before. Every meal that you sit down to eat at the dinner table with your family, the dad has a beer and the wife has a glass of wine.
Yep.
Every single meal, every company, the boss comes in, someone comes in to talk to the boss grabs the snifter. Hey, John, when you like a fifth of a finger of cognac, like it's 2:00 in the afternoon. Like, in what company is this taking place? But marketing, they will portray that as the case. So in your mind, it makes you feel like, not that you would do it, but that alcohol is that much of a needed or a necessary part of our society that we do it all the time. And it's ridiculous, if you ask me.
It is absolutely ridiculous. Yes, watching TV, and it's associated with celebrations, but also anytime the character has a little bit of stress, what do? They sigh, and you can like count the seconds, pour a drink. What do you think that has done? And you know, you and I are wise to this now. It's making a bunch of people rich, but it's also creating tremendous cognitive dissonance for a person like me. I was completely sold into the mommy wine culture, because by the time I started to realize this isn't lining up, this isn't working out the way it used to, mommy wine culture was in full throttle, full swing. And we were all giggling, hee. We're drinking on the sidelines of the soccer game. And we're, having a little cocktail here and there, play dates. And it's the same thing. If you realize this isn't working for me, alcohol is not my friend. And yet I see all these things in the marketing and on TV and in movies that are telling me I'm supposed to be able to manage this. I'm supposed to handle this.
Is it time to give your liver a break? Have you been punishing your liver for many years with seemingly innocent alcohol use? If so, I invite you to show your liver some love by enjoying natural supplements from my supplements company, Swan Vitality. The Swan Vitality Liver Cleanse contains my own concentrated formula of powerful natural antioxidants scientifically designed to cleanse the liver and support blood circulation. Just take 3 capsules every day with your evening meal with a half glass of water, and you will love the results you will see and feel. Swan Vitality is 100% natural, safe, and effective. To get started on your Swan Vitality journey, I'm inviting you to enjoy 15% off your first order. Just go to swanvitality.com and use the code James at checkout. That's swanvitality.com. Use the code James at checkout to trigger your 15% off.
How do people overcome that cognitive dissonance, that those two minds, those two sets of beliefs?
The only thing they can do, Victoria, is just know that it is a lie. And the way they can know it is a lie is use their own life as an example. Like, the thing that burns me up at times, how many times do you see, to your point, in movies, let's use Scandal, right? You got Scandal, who is Annalise Keaton, who is this powerful lawyer that's smart as all get out, does all these amazing things, right? She goes out, or listen, not Scandal. I'm thinking of the wrong thing. Scandal with Olivia Pope, right? Olivia Pope in Scandal. That's narrative, right? Olivia Pope have a bad night. To your point, have a bad night. The president doesn't want to go on a date with her, or whatever. I don't even know what that storyline is. She gets hammered the night before. Gets hammered on wine. She's drinking a whole bottle of wine. An hour later, a crisis happens. And then she's on her P's and Q's, mental clarity through the roof, answering questions, sharp as a whip. That's not real life. The way they portray drinking and your ability to bounce back from drinking is not the world in which we live in. And that is why people can look at this and discount it, because they rarely show people being truly hungover. They may be hungover the next morning. Oh, man, my head hurts. I drank too much last night. Then 20 minutes later, they're off being the best detective they've ever been in their life. Look at Sherlock Holmes. They portray Robert Downey Jr., Sherlock Holmes, as a drunk, but yet he's the sharpest guy in the room all the time. That's it. That's not congruent. That's not real life. And that is how you just have to understand that what society shows us, it's no different than the Instagram world we're living in. It's a filter. It's not reality. And we just have to be smart enough to recognize that and tell us to ourselves.
That's brilliant. Yeah. I tell people, you know, we serve the same sort of community, high achievers who are used to getting things done. And I say to them, you're not a follower in other areas of your life. Why are you going to be a follower? Once you see the truth about the lies that we're being fed, why not just say, hey, you know what? I'm tired of being fed a lie. I'm going to think for myself. I'm going to create my own path. And that usually resonates with people, because nobody likes to be a follower of a crowd. And for me, it was like, well, okay, I've been fed a lie. Now I'm going to fight back. And when you get angry, and I can sense your anger, when you get angry about this, you take up a cause. You take up a cause to raise awareness, educate people, and help people out of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, for me, it's just you don't know what you don't know. Like for me, when I was drinking, life was awesome. I'm in King of Front. My wife and I had a great time when we were drinking. Life was amazing. But now that we're on the other side, our relationship is so much better. We save so much money. Our relationships, our family is so much better. Travel is so much better. Our careers are so much better. So it's almost like, you know, for me, I shout it to the rooftops because it's almost like a religion. Like I want people to understand, if they give this a try, they will experience a much better life than they ever thought possible. But they have to give it a try. And then what you said, I love it. I think it's a great technique, because you're right. High achievers want to be leaders, not followers, right? So I think your technique could be extremely effective, because you know, I think that would resonate with people to understand, if you take this route, you're going to be in the minority, and minority typically, from a leader perspective, is the group you want to be in.
For sure. Before we wind up, I'd like you to share a little bit about the inverted pyramid story you told me. I think that's going to resonate with a lot of our listeners. And it certainly resonated for me now, being quite a ways out from my alcohol drinking days.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, like I look at my life and it kind of goes back to what I said before. I was healthy in a lot of ways, or I was successful in a lot of ways. I worked out all 5-6 days a week. I woke up every day, 5 o'clock, 5:30, ran 3 miles a day. Sales success. Like I had a lot of great things that I did, right? But what I recognize is that alcohol was always pulling away from it. It was always making it more difficult. And when I made the decision to quit drinking, it became the base of what I said, the inverted triangle or an upside down triangle. And that basement, as long as I don't drink and I keep that from something that I do, everything else in my success funnel will stay on top and be held accordingly, or be held stable based on the bottom platform is me not drinking. So my health foundation is going to be strong. My fitness is going to be great. My finances are going to be great. My career success is going to be great. The minute I take away and start drinking again, all of that can potentially topple upon itself and I lose everything. So for me, and I wrote an article about this before, I am terrified to begin drinking again for two reasons. One, my life is so great since I stopped drinking. I don't want to lose that again. And then two, the reality is, and this happens with people that relapse, when you haven't drank in a while and you go back to drinking, it becomes worse a lot of times. You know? And so I just, I don't want that for myself. And my life has been on such a great trajectory since I stopped drinking 3 years ago. And my inverted triangle continues to grow and is bigger and bigger because I'm becoming more successful, more enlightened, more financial success. That if I stop drinking, I have such a big triangle to lose that there's no way, or if I start drinking, there's no way I would risk that again.
So what I hear you saying is it wasn't when you stopped drinking and started building those wins, it wasn't that you were going to lose everything. It's that you were tired of losing your edge. And now, and that's our members. I mean, they're operating at a 6 or 7, but they're 10s. And so, you're like, I'm not having any rock bottoms, but I'm losing my edge. And sounds like you turned that around, got your edge back, and then just kept building on those wins. And you know that if you add alcohol back in, it's just going to start to crumble.
Crumble back down. You ever read Darren Hardy's The Compound Effect?
No.
It's a great book, first of all. Great book. It's called Darren Hardy, The Compound Effect, one of the best books ever. And what you said, though, Victoria, is exactly in relation to that and what I discovered. So we talk about the edge, and that edge is that when you're operating at a 9 or a 10 every day, right? And what Darren Hardy Compound Effect is, it's around the concept of getting better 1% every day.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like a lot the days that you're doing it, but the difference between you performing at a 5 one day versus you performing at a 10 one day, if you extrapolate over a week, a month, a year, 2 years, 3 years, you're talking about an exponential difference in regards to where you are. So what happened with drinking is that I would take 2 steps forward and I'll take 1.9 steps back. Then I'll take 2 steps forward and I'll take 1.8 steps back. So I was progressing, but I was progressing at a much smaller clip. Now that I don't drink, I'm going 2 steps forward, then I'm going 2 steps forward, then I'm going 2 more steps. And it builds and it builds and it builds. And that's why I tell people, because there's going to be, I think that, and this is very important for your listeners to know, there is a honeymoon period with everything. When you stop drinking, it's going to seem amazing. Sleep's going to be better. Sex is going to be better. Food's going to be better. Everything's going to be better. But eventually your body does what it does, and it gets used to that being your normal state. You reach a state of homeostasis. Now, what happens then is that it doesn't seem like everything's amazing everywhere. Everything's good, but it's not as amazing as it was when you first did it. But what you will realize is over time, that incremental improvement still happens. And you don't recognize it as much until you look back and you're like, holy shit, look what I can do now that I could have never done 3 years ago. And that's where people usually like, after that, when that 6-month period hits and you're like, oh man, maybe I'll go back to drinking because this isn't really that big of a deal and I'm good, but it's not amazing. You got to keep on because there's still so much more that you have to gain if you give it time.
You've got some great talking points, Ken. I really appreciate you being here. Tell us again, well, I don't know if I shared this yet, but tell us where our listeners can find you and follow you and learn from you.
Yeah, definitely. Ainyf.com, AINYF.com. If you go there, it'll take you right to the Medium website. All of my articles are there. We have a lot of great contributors at AINF. I think we're probably up to about 30 writers. And the writers are just people like me or you, Victoria, people that they have a story to tell. They've had techniques that have utilized that has made them successful, and they want to spread the gospel to others. So if you want to go read articles there, and if you have a story to tell and you have tips and strategies to share with other people, come check us out. I'll make you a writer, and then you can help other people not make the mistakes that you did. And then the second thing, often I've learned, the more I share, the more I learn. So we're all learning from each other as we go along.
Yeah, this has been an exciting time to be alcohol free and to teach others about it. I like when people would say, well, what do you do now that you don't drink? What do you do? And I laugh and I say, whatever the hell I want.
Yes.
So
everything.
it's a great way to
Everything.
live. Great way to live. Well, Ken, thank you again from Anif. Alcohol is not your friend. But Ken, I consider you a friend. Thanks for being in the cause with us and helping others.
Absolutely.
It's been an honor. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Victoria.
Here are 5 ways I can support you on your health journey. Number 1, the Better AF group support. You can go to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/betteraf. That is group virtual coaching to help you to stop drinking. The YouTube channel at alcoholfreelifestyle.com/YouTube. The book, Alcohol Freedom Formula, can be found at alcoholfreelifestyle.com/guide. My liver cleanse from my supplements company, Swan Vitality, at swanvitality.com. And protect your eyes from screens by wearing a pair of Swannies blue light blocking glasses from my sleep company, Swanic Sleep. You can find that at swannies.com. Catch you on the next one.